Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the AKASHIC Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey Soul Tribe! Today we're going to do an episode about the AKASHIC Records and the future. And if any of you have ever had a reading with Lorena or me, or if any of you have studied it, you'll know that future is not something they talk about too much. So we're going to get into the details of why they don't speak about it too much, what information can you get, and kind of like how they see the future, because they see it differently than we do, or that most of us do at least. I also wanted to let everybody know that Lorena and I have spent a nice amount of time and a lot of astral energy and our own body energy in creating this amazing course that is all about your soul contract and all the information that the AKASHIC Records masters gave us. It brings together the things that we learned as AKASHIC Records readers, all the experience we obtained, and we did it while we were typing it up. We did it with our AKASHIC Records open, so our masters added a bunch of stuff in there that even while we were like typing it, we're like, wow, that's super interesting. We didn't even know about that. So it was kind of like giving ourselves the class in a way, the masters channeled through us. And it was, putting it down so you guys could have that. It's really good information just to understand the soul's process and what goes behind the soul contract, what's included in it, and why those things are important for the soul. And it's really good if you're trying to understand the AKASHIC Records, if you're planning on studying it, or if you already studied it. It's really good information to understand the information you get. So it kind of all comes together, and that's why we kind of meshed it in to be a parallel like lesson with the AKASHIC Records Level 1, which is reading yourself. And so that's the update. We will be linking on the bio the Thinkific link to get to that course. It's online. You can do it at your own pace, at your own time, which is really great, and obviously anywhere in the world. So we're very happy to be able to offer that to you guys. And as for an update,
and then we have a June AKASHIC Records Level 1 class as well that we've confirmed. It's going to be June 13th and 14th. That's Saturday and Sunday. And then the following weekend, so it'd be Sunday the 21st, we'd have the follow-up class. So same structure as April and May classes, just a new group. And we have I think some people have already signed up, so I think we have a little bit less than 10 spots. So if you're interested, definitely get in touch with us. We'll put the information on the show notes. So this course basically will teach you how to open your own AKASHIC record. So it would be level 1. And we've also channeled this extensive manual with a lot of information. So we go through the whole manual. We do a lot of practice, a lot of theory, and it's, we want you guys to like leave the course, not only having that structure of information, but also I think in a way like the practice. I think the practice is so important to have that in the group and to be able to do that with us. So that's also why it's a very small group, and we do it on Zoom, and you basically just have to like log on, and we have a few little prerequisites that, like you can't have alcohol or any illegal drugs before it because you're going to be connecting with the AKASHIC Records. But other than that, all you have to really do is just have an open mind and have a willingness to want to connect to the AKASHIC Records. That's all that you need for this course. So if any of you are interested, feel free to reach out to us. We'll put all the information on the show notes. And we're excited for another amazing group, because the last 2 groups were like, they just blew our mind. You guys were all amazing, and I got a little emotional at the end. It's just so nice to see everybody, it's like everybody's spreading their wings and being able to channel for themselves. It's really cool. Yeah. So it's exciting.
So yeah, I'm excited about June, and like you said, the students from the other classes were so amazing, and it's so cool, kind of like to be able to teach them, and you know what they're going through because you were there, we were there, we went through it, and when we downloaded the information for this course, when we channeled the information for this course, we did it communicating with our masters, and them all, they already know us, and they knew that we didn't agree with a bunch of stuff that we had been taught that we felt that limit you. And so this manual was really brought on with love, because we want you guys to have an open door and not a bunch of set of rules that are going to limit the way you can connect. So we love that we can offer that.
Yeah. We're doing it our own way.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
The Soul Tribe way.
The Soul Tribe way.
Yeah. On top of that, Lorena, I started learning to do remote viewing.
All right, yeah, you were talking about that.
I've been a little bit nerdy about it. Like, I started looking into videos of, like, how the CIA and the FBI started doing it, and this was a thing back before we were born. I'm like, what is this whole remote viewing world that I never knew about? And I think Gaia got me on it first. Like, Gaia TV got me obsessed with it first, and I'm like, no, you know what? I'm learning this for myself. I'm going to see how this works, and maybe I can learn a really cool new tool, right? So I've started this week. I'm still a beginner. We will see.
Yeah, take your time with it and keep us posted, all of us, because it's interesting. I might have to get on the bandwagon with it and try it.
Maybe you could do some fun exercises with like the Soul Tribe remote view together.
It's kind of creepy.
Well, that's what remote viewers do. They kind of like have the same target, and then they all double check their information, and they find that everybody got the same thing or super similar. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm like a remote viewer obsessed nerd now.
Jeez, I didn't know it worked that way. So that's a good way to know that you're out, like, actually seeing something. Or can you get confirmation from, like, a video or something?
Well, the way they practice it is they put something inside of an envelope, and you have the number that's outside of the envelope, and you have to remote view what's in that envelope. And then at the end of the class or the course or the end of that exercise, you get to see the target. You get to see what it is you were remote viewing, and you're like, whoa. Most of the time, you're like, whoa. That's kind of what I got. Yeah. But I'm, like I said, I'm just learning how it works. I haven't done any exercises yet because I'm supposed to do it in a quiet room, and I haven't had that yet.
One day that'll happen.
One day I'll have a quiet room to do it. Yes, but I haven't had that. In like
16 years or something.
Yeah. So we'll see. Thanks for reminding me that I have a baby. Thank you. Anyways. So yeah, okay, so those are my updates. Oh, on top of the fact that I've gotten a nice growth from my vegetables, which we shared on our Instagram.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
I'm a remote viewing farmer.
And you got your greenhouse, which I want to see that when you put that up this weekend as well.
Yeah, I bought a really cheap one. Super cheap. I just wanted to put the plants in there, because the ones that I put outside died.
Oh,
so I did it I did this whole process.
The big wood thing?
No, those are the only ones that didn't die, but the ones I put in pots outside died.
Oh.
Like I had three zucchinis, 2 tomatoes, and I don't know what else. And they all just died, and the same versions of that same seed, they all grew in the same batch. I had grown them all together. I said, let me just try putting some outside and some inside. And I did a bunch of seeds because I'm a beginner. I'm probably going to kill all but one or something. But so the ones that are inside are like thriving, and the ones that were outside in pots, gone.
Yeah. Plus, you guys had like a few days it was hot, and then it was cold.
Oh, we had hail.
I can imagine that affected. Yeah.
Like it was really hot weather, and then one day there was hail. I was like, oh, I was like a mommy going, oh, my babies are all gonna die.
Yeah, you need that greenhouse out there,
yeah.
At least for the next month or two until like summer kicks in.
Yeah, and
even then, you don't want like direct sun on them all the time, right? I don't know how your backyard is.
No, probably not.
I think it depends on the. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the vegetable, maybe.
I don't know, but definitely in the winter they'll be there. They'll be there definitely. But I think the biggest concern was Sandra was like, "How is that not going to fly away? Because it's really windy country here." And I was like, "Can't we like tie it down somehow? Because it's like cheap plastic. I got a really cheap one. I don't know. We have to figure it out. Maybe I have to tie it to the fence or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you can use like a staple gun against the wood or something. Just see.
Maybe. No, Sandra wouldn't permit that. That's like
Don't
that's
touch
like,
my wood.
Yeah, that's like a Uruguayan style fixer, and that doesn't
Duct tape.
Duct tape. Oh my God! Do you remember the apartment I lived in? Everything was duct taped. I fixed even the curtain, windows, everything was fixed with duct tape. I remember Dad walked in and goes, "What is this?" I was like, "I fixed it."
Duct tape is magical, though.
Also,
it does fix a lot of stuff.
Duct tape, right?
I think it's duct tape.
My entire life, I've called it duck tape. Duck, as in like quack, quack, quack.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I might be wrong. I don't know.
No, it's not duck. I found out after I was saying it wrong. Anyways.
Anyhow.
Let's begin with the subject for today. Akashic Records and the future. The first thing I think we should state is nothing is set in stone. Like, I think that most of us, when we're first coming on the spiritual path, we think, or those that believe in destiny, obviously, I have a destiny and that's it. That nothing I can do will lead me off of that course that my destiny will take me. And that's actually very far from true. And there's a lot of things that we're going to get into why, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No. Just you keep going.
No. Well, so the first reason why nothing's set in stone is because we have this little thing, which is not little, it's a big thing, called free will. And we have a whole episode about it, right? We talked about the free will and karma.
We could do like 10 episodes about free will.
Yeah. I mean, literally the soul signs up for something, goes, free will, like that's like the first thing on the list, right? Free will. That's what leads us to learning, because we're choosing for ourselves, and that's bringing on a whole lesson on its own. But free will means that I can have something written up in my soul contract, and it says, okay, you're going to go and you're going to have this incarnation, and what you need to learn is this, 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 and this. And these are going to be your struggles, right? How you react, what path you end up taking, where you end up going, it all depends on the decisions you make. And the decisions you make are made by your head, and your head is using its free will.
Or your heart. You can follow your heart too with things.
Yeah, okay, you're right. Or your heart, and that's your free will. To make it with your heart or your head, right? Those are your free will.
Yeah, I think if you maybe use your head more than your heart, or I think using your head's using more your ego sometimes, not always, but I think if you use your head more, then maybe you might not be on that right path, and that's where your free will can change the outcome of that future that might be clear on your soul contract, but you've chosen something different. So you veered on the path and you're going down a different way. And you could always circle back, right? And I think that came up in one of these readings I did, which was really interesting. I don't remember who it was or when it was, but it was like their path was like going around, and it was like, but it kept coming back to the center. It kept coming. It's like, you have to go off to come back. It was like part of the message. It was really interesting.
Maybe that was the plan for them, or
maybe I couldn't really tell, but I was like, this is how you live. Like you have to try things. You need to go around and come back. But you're like, I think the main message there was like, it doesn't matter what you do. You're always going to come back to center. You're always going to come back to your soul and your soul aligned path, because maybe that person was super aligned with their purpose. Maybe they were already on their path. They were just needing to veer off every now and then. And when they say veer off, it's not you're doing something wrong. It's like you're just trying things in a different way.
That sounds very specific.
I always thought that was interesting.
That sounds very specific.
It was very specific to them.
Yeah. Because that's usually not the case. I have seen like you circle back to lessons because either it's a really important lesson or it just hasn't been properly learned yet and the soul needs to try it out again and it wants more than one chance in this lifetime. I have seen that more than a few times. But then so we're talking about how you can make that decision based on your heart, which is your intuition, which is you're going to be your soul path. So it's what would be setting your contract. And if it's with your head, it's your ego, and it's probably pretty much off your track of your path or your soul contract. But so that means that your free will, yours as an individual, will affect you. But at the same time, your own free will and your decisions and the way you react and the way you do things is also going to affect other people. And I can give a really good example here about you and me. let's decide that the day you called me and you said, Lucia, oh my God, let's do the podcast. Like I don't know why, but I feel like we need to do a podcast. And I could have been like, no, it's too much work. No, I'm not up for it. No, forget it. I have a child.
You could have, yeah.
Yeah, I have a child. There's too much to deal with. Sorry, but no. And then that would have affected you. That obviously would have affected me because this is what we were supposed to do. And that would have affected everybody that at some point got something out of listening to something that we said or we communicated or we informed of. And so that's a good example of showing you how your free will can affect a small group around you or a large group around you at the same time.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Like any decision you make, it's just like the podcast we just recorded with somebody, and we were talking about how, I don't remember what it was in context to, but it's like your soul making a specific decision will not, like you, for example, not doing something is not just going to affect one person, because that'll affect that person affecting other people. It's like with healers, right? If we help one healer with maybe a message that we put out on this podcast, that she'll be able or he'll be able to help other people through that. So it could be hundreds or thousands of people that get affected by a decision of doing or not doing something. It's not just one person. It's never just one person. Your free will affect many things. So that's why when you make a specific decision or you decide to go down a specific path, how that can affect your future. That affects everything.
Yeah.
Yours and others.
Yeah.
So nothing's set in stone, like you were saying at the beginning.
Now, free will can affect the future in a negative way. That's kind of the way we've been talking about it. In this case, if I had said no to you, that would have affected me, you, and a bunch of other people in a negative way. But sometimes your free will can actually allow you to get ahead, do a little bit more, or advance. And the example that the AKASHIC Records gave me on this is, if you spiritually advance more than they projected you were going to, you have like a foot in. You've passed the goal. You're going to be ahead of the game, and you're going to be able to do more, help more, assist more, be present more. It depends on the situation, obviously, but spiritual awakening is coming into play now on Earth much more. There's many more people awakening, and a lot of it's due to because it's time. It's finally time, and there's been wake-up calls bombarding us all around, giving us this negative energy in this negative situation, and it's on purpose. The masters and the guides are allowing it to happen. They're not stopping it because it's actually bringing those that are kind of allowing themselves to go, okay, well, you know what? I'm supposed to learn from everything in life. This is a lesson. What am I not doing in my life, or what am I supposed to learn from this? And many of those people are going, let me find out spiritually what I am, or what am I good at? I must have traits. Let me spiritually evolve. And that's going to enhance your future events. It's going to make it better because you're going to be in a better spiritual place, and a more awakened and more present place to be able to decide whatever it is that comes in front of you, because there's going to be decisions to make in the future, and you're going to decide, and you're going to be a foot ahead, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's so crazy how sometimes, like for me, like my rational brain, my human brain sometimes is like, me, like I think I'm a little better now, maybe not, I don't know, but making decisions, I'm very undecisive. Like I'll have, that's part of me being a Taurus and having a lot of earth in my chart. But I think as well, it's like, when you make a decision, and a lot of people kind of explain it this way, and I don't know if it's the best way to explain it, but it's like, when you make a decision, you're giving something up. And I think that's a good way to show like your path too. It's like when you decide something, you can't go down two paths at the same time. It's not how it works. It's like you're going to go down one path and you're leaving something behind. And it might be people, it might be experiences, it might be lessons. It's like, okay, cool, I'm going down this path now. And that means this is going to be a whole new lesson I'm going to learn, or I'm going to learn the lesson in a different way. And I need certain people to be on that path with me, to accompany me, so I can learn that lesson this way through this instead of through that. So it changes the whole dynamic of even the lesson and how you learn it. And those are, I think, what we mentioned in a previous episode, and what's in this course, which is really new and exciting, is like the clauses in our contract. How when you make certain decisions and you decide to go a different way, that'll change a clause will activate in your contract so that you could learn that lesson, or you can do what you need to do with that situation. think it's fascinating.
The clauses, when we downloaded information, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Oh my God. I'm like fascinated by it. Like I want to write a whole book about just clauses because I find it so, I'm so obsessed with it now. Yeah, but that's a really good point that you said there, you know, like there's just so much coming into play, and there's so many aspects of your contract that, yeah, the clauses might come in and affect you. And I don't want to get into clauses because that's like a whole nother episode and I don't want to over explain it. But at the same time, okay, so we're talking about like in a good way, right? So let's say that your free will sent you to make a decision that was positive. What happens if you lost the opportunity? Is it gone? No, not always. Sometimes it might be, but not always. And the good example of that for me is my wake-up call, and they're called wake-up calls. So you've been given a chance. Your free will went the wrong way for your soul path. You lost that chance, like you said. The chance is lost. Okay. And then they might circle around and give you the opportunity to try to decide it again, maybe in a different way, and whoop, again, wrong. And that's what I did. I was supposed to learn to read the Akashic Records. I was supposed to start learning to receive information, and I just wasn't doing it. I was just in an angry place. And so my wake-up call was the dream premonitions, and they kept coming back, and it was awful, and I kept confirming it on the news, and I kept seeing what I was dreaming, and to the point where there was no other option but to believe and that there's something more out there than just physical us. That was kind of my wake-up call, because to me it was like, no, I'm just flesh and I'm, blood, and that's it. And so that was my wake-up call, because I had used my free will and made the wrong decision many times. But my soul had an urgency to get back on path, and that was kind of like my last chance. That was my last chance. And so my last chance was given to me, bombarded to me in that way, and it worked. It took 3 years, but it worked. After 3 years of having those dream premonitions, I ended up getting my Akashic Records read, and it was so healing for me that I'm like, I need to learn to do this. And they even said it to me in the session, like, you need to learn to do this. So the dreams would go away. So they were basically telling me, you need to learn to connect and use your brain and your body for something else besides just overly thinking.
I think that reminds me a lot about the interview that would come out next week after this podcast episode, but where she was saying it's, it starts as a whisper. So first it's a whisper, and then maybe it's a little bit louder, and then a little bit louder until you can't ignore it. I think that's a good way to kind of looking at it. And it gets to a point where it's like your soul or your guides or your masters, whatever that is, it's like screaming at you, like, you need to pay attention to this. Hello, I'm over here. Like, you can't ignore it. So there's things, decisions and struggles and maybe specific paths that your soul is going to guide you down. And it's for your higher good. It's for you to be most aligned. But the free will's there. You can decide to ignore it. And I think sometimes there's a big pull from our soul to maybe really get on that path. And that's where, in the case of Anne and Bayford, we had her on the other week, she had near-death experiences. A lot. Like many, because she wasn't aligned. And that goes to show sometimes it's like, no, she was here to do that. She needed to do that. And maybe for some people that's not the case, where it's so strict, quote unquote strict, where they have to do this specific thing. Like, I think in her case, I think she's a great example of someone that's coming to do something very specific and help people in a very specific way. And, she might not have that much free will in that case. She might have had a little bit of free will in how she went about it and the way she did it, but she was meant to do that. There's no doubt about it. And they've guided her in that way. And I think for many of you that might be listening, that might be the case. I don't know, but just know that we all have some type of free will in that sense, because, that's part of our contract, 100%, no doubt. That if you can guarantee anything, that's part of it, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good example, because if it's something small, like you had said, you might miss the chance and then that chance is gone and you're off path. But if it's something big that was really marked in your contract, they're going to give you more than one chance, and more chances, even more if you're someone like her who needed to do that, or me who needed to wake up. So yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you just explained it better than I did. I just came up with that. I think I just channeled it and I was like, okay, I didn't compare them. But yeah, you're right. They're very different situations for sure.
And wake-up calls can be, and we've talked about this before, wake-up calls can be something small. And I remember the Akashic Records when they read me, when I was having my first reading. It's funny because I refer to that first reading a lot. I remember it like it was yesterday, yet I don't remember the ones that came after that.
I do remember my first one. I remember the feeling, but I don't remember what came through, no.
I remember all of it. It's crazy. I think it's because it was a big impact for me. It was a big change. I hadn't been on that path before, and it was all new. But I remember that they said to me that those dream premonitions, because I said, why am I having these? I'm here for you to tell me. And they said, that's your wake-up call. Some people, and I remember them saying, some people lose limbs. Some people get in a really awful car accident that makes them go, oh my goodness, what am I doing with my life? And like yours was the dream premonition. And so dream premonition can come in as a wake-up call, or it could be you tapping into an ability you have. Because I know a lot of people lately have been talking about how they're having these really odd dreams, and I've been hearing about it more often lately, and the masters are here to say that that's actually them connecting with you and trying to get you to build confidence and kind of come back into alignment with your soul and your soul's ability to connect. So if you are having a bunch of kind of like very vivid dreams, that's the way they describe it, very vivid dreams, those are your soul awakenings. So call them soul awakenings if you want. And for them, for some reason, they link the word soul awakening with dreams and wake-up calls with physical. So soul awakening, I'm getting it right now. This is how they're explaining it. Soul awakening is the first step to try to wake you up or to help you connect more strongly with the other side, because that's part of what you're here to do, or you're supposed to, because it's going to help you with something. If that doesn't function, if the soul awakening doesn't function, it can go into the first state of awakening, which is like a not so severe way of trying to wake you up. And then if it gets very bad, then it could be a full-blown wake-up call, which most full-blown wake-up calls are literally, I was hit by a car, and then I woke up and I was able to see dead people, right? Like, that's why they call it the full-blown wake-up call.
Or they were already seeing them, but they were pushing, like, for example, I remember Laura Lee, also psychic medium. She had a lot of stuff come up for her. I think she had some type of eating disorder, she said. And I remember her sharing that story of like an angel coming to her and like, you have to do this. Like, this is part of your path. So they can be completely different. Don't think you're just going to have a near-death experience. That's weird. But you can have encounters. You can have specific messages come to you. It can be so varied. And I think whatever your soul needs, because sometimes we need a big push. Yeah. Sometimes you need a big push, and that might mean like a literal wake up call, like you almost dying. And sometimes even that doesn't help people. You know what I mean?
Sometimes they just get angrier with the world because that happened to them, and why me? And the wake up call didn't function. And then you're off track.
Yeah, you're getting the role of victim. You get in your ego, and then you're off track again. Yeah.
And a wake up call can also be you lose a loved one, that was really close to you, and it was their time to go. And at the same time, they coordinated with your soul to kind of give you that little push to wake up, because you're also running out of time, and at this point they're already ready to go. So you can't even list the amount of wake up calls possibilities are, because they use so many different techniques that you can't. These guys get creative. Like the master's like telling me, "Oh yeah, we get creative."
Yeah, no. I know
they
that.
had full-blown adapt it to what you need. I mean, with me, they started like, this is the example he's giving me this example of how they adapt it to what the person needs. So for me, my lesson was use your brain, Lucia. That's just how he's saying it. Use your brain, Lucia, for something else and just overly thinking all the time. So that's how he's saying it to me. So what they did was, they're using my brain and implanting information that came in the form of dreams at night, because my soul was able to receive it better while I was sleeping. And so it showed up in the beginning as kind of like, somewhat of a heavy dream. Maybe sometimes I felt like a nightmare. I wasn't getting it. I still wasn't getting it. Very square, right? And so he says, we had to kick it up a notch and give you a little bit more detailed, where like you would spot it on the news at some point. And he goes, you kept pushing it off as a coincidence, he says.
Phase 2, yeah. And then you go to the next phase.
And then we kicked it up another notch. And he goes, and we took away your energy every time we had to send those dreams. And I'm now he's saying that, I'm thinking, oh my God, yes. Do you remember how exhausted I would be?
Yeah.
So they would literally take away pieces of my energy while I was sleeping. And I thought it was the dream that had been so heavy, but now I'm finding out that it was that they were taking the energy to make me wake up even more.
That's so weird. I had a weird dream the other night too that felt so vivid. I definitely was astral traveling. It was like I was living where I am now, but in an alternate universe. It was so weird.
What was the universe like?
It was the same island, but it was a different life.
Oh.
It was like I was a different person.
Was it a different lifetime or a parallel life?
No, it felt like a parallel life here.
It can be.
It was so weird. That's how it felt.
Were you a man or a woman? Do you remember that?
No, it was me. I was like kind of like me. And there was people that coincided in the dream. Like I could recognize them. And then other people, I didn't know who they were, but I was jumping out of airplanes and seeing things from above.
Oh, that's that dream you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so vivid.
Wait, you were jumping out for fun, or was that a job, or?
I don't know. It was just, and I remember at one
really
point I was
funny.
hanging.
You're really scared of heights, and you're really scared of airplanes.
Yeah, but I also rappel and I mountain climb sometimes. So, and I would consider jumping out of an airplane for sure.
That's funny. I was a pilot, and I would never jump out of an airplane. I would stay in it and fly it, but I won't jump out.
But yet I don't want to go on an airplane. No. Anyway, yeah, I'm just saying, like, dreams. I think you mentioned this before. How dreams are. What was the word you said? Well, they said. Oh shoot, you were channeling. Okay,
yeah, I was channeling. I don't remember anymore. I said something about, I don't know. Dreams are.
You were saying
soul awakenings.
Yeah, or something like that. And then, no, I don't remember it. Well, anyhow, because now we can't go back and listen to it. But
I don't have the rewind skill.
No, darn it. Anywho, getting back to that, saying like dreams can still give you messages. Like for you, maybe they were premonitions, but all of us, I think, can receive messages through dreams. Like we can all get even intuitive hits through dreams of like what feels right, what doesn't feel right, how we can follow our heart. And what, like a path, like we can get messages from our angels, from light beings even. And I feel like I've gotten those before. And they've helped me feel more aligned in maybe a decision I'm making. I think there's just so many ways we can get messages. It's infinite, really. You know, numbers, angel numbers, someone, you contacting someone and someone saying something to you and it's like reaffirming something that you're already thinking or feeling. Those aren't coincidences. Like, don't even think that they're coincidences because they're not.
That reminds me of the interview we just finished doing, which will be up after this one. How my soul was just letting me know that I was connected to that person, and they're speaking about something, and then while they're speaking about, like, it happens to me like a few seconds before, like like you said, like there's kind of like these small signs around you that if you pay attention, you'll be like, man, everything's kind of connected and aligned and it's all crazy, right?
Can start with a feeling. I think a lot of times we can start as a feeling. Oh, I feel a call or a pull to do this. And that's your soul talking to you. You're your master. I think usually that's your soul.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, cool. What do I want to do? Or you let your ego take over? Or do you let your heart take over and follow your intuition? And that's where the free will comes in. So that's like a good kind of example of you feeling something and you may be ignoring it and deciding to do something. Oh, that's just crazy. I'm not going to do it. And I'm just going to do what's the rational and most like logical thing to do because that's probably what's going to be better for me.
The best example, like you just said that and it pops into my head, what the masters and guides always said. I mean, this is like, I remember hearing them say this when I first started reading Akashic Records, and I heard them during the years repeat it various times to different people, depending on if they needed to hear it or not. But what they always said is, follow your pillow talk, and they call it pillow talk. It's what you're like, when you're laying down and you're in this like really nice comfy place and you're feeling secure and safe and nice and warm, right? And you're just dreaming about something like, I want to move here one day, or I want to travel here, or I want to do this as a career, or this is a life thing. That's your pillow talk. That's your intuition. That's what you really feel, what you really want to do, and that's what your soul really wants you to do. What happens, says the masters, is then you go to sleep and you wake up, and then your brain wakes up with you, and your ego wakes up with you, and goes, you can't do that thing that you wanted to do. That's too much work, or that's not going to happen because paperwork this and paperwork that.
Or you're not prepared, or
exactly whatever excuse it gives you. And so they call that the waking up of the ego, because it woke up after the night's sleep. But you're supposed to listen and drive yourself onto the path of what your pillow talk is saying to you.
Yeah, your intuition, what you feel, because that's more of an indicator of what's most aligned with your soul path than anything else.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I've found moments where after I feel something, I can get my logical brain to follow through with what I'm feeling and mix those in together. But in general, they'll be very contradictory. Like they won't be on the same page at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that would be you listening to your free will if you listen to the pillow talk, and you'll be aligning. But sometimes the free will that you're using has this very small significance, or has a small thing that takes you to another thing, that ends up taking you to this big thing that you really need. And if you didn't take those, for example, 3 small steps before, those 3 small decisions before, you wouldn't have gotten to that grand big thing in your life. So sometimes it can't be so obvious after we pass through those till maybe a few years later go, oh, that's why I had to take this job and then do this move and then go do this and then da-da-da-da.
I feel that all the time. Yeah, totally. I just want to give an example here, because I think let's be very practical with this so people can understand, because I know we're giving a lot of concepts and ideas and these all make sense, but it's like, okay, cool. What if I'm coming to you for a reading, right? And I'm asking you, Lucia, I don't know, let's say, what's most aligned for me to do? Stay in Cayman Islands or move? What do I have to do? What's the best thing to do?
They're not going to say, do this.
They're not going to tell. No, they could tell you.
No, the experience I've had is they're going to say, if you do this one thing, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this can align, and this can align. If you do this one, you're going to have a bit of a struggle with this, this, and that. So they tell you the reality of both situations, but they're not telling you what to do. And they love you and respect you the same amount, whatever decision. Yeah, but if you choose a decision that's not going to help you, they love you even more because you're going to need it.
Yeah. It's so important for you to use your free will. I think that's the point here. And why you going into a reading is never about getting an answer on what to do. You can try and see a psychic. You can try and, get other answers from other people, but that's not what the Akashic records are about. And I think as long as you can understand that, understand how the dynamic, why that doesn't happen and why getting those answers won't really benefit you, and then you can really dive into it and ask the questions you need to ask. Do you know what I mean? Not waste your time in asking things that maybe, you're going to end up doing what you have to do anyway, because you have to use your free will. So if that makes sense.
And so now that we explained all this, let's get into the main subject, which is how do the Akashic records see the future, right? So now that we understand free will, how it comes into play, why it's important, and how it can affect you and others, now we need to understand how they see it. Now we know why they see it that way. And that is, they see it as possibilities, right? They see it as this situation has this percentage of possibility of happening, and this one has this percentage of possibility of happening, and this one has this percentage of possibility. So they already know which one is highly probable will happen. And they call those timelines. They call those different timelines, probable timelines. So that's because there's going to be more than one timeline. There's going to be more than one timeline that's going to define your path, and it'll start defining itself and coming into play once you start choosing that, and that one will light up, and that will be the one you're on, and that will go off into all its other possibilities and probabilities, right? So it's really tricky the way they see it, but what you chose as your body what you chose as your personality and your mind were actually chosen by your soul to enhance the probability of that path to come into play in this incarnation.
Yes. And that's also, this is a lot of what we get into with the soul contracts, which is really interesting. But I think, and it's so funny because you use the word timelines. I see them as paths. When they physically show them to me on a reading, I don't see like a timeline. They'll show me like a person standing, and they're showing me now like a man standing with 3 paths in front of him, and him just looking and like, okay, I can go down these 3 paths. I assume those would be what you call timelines, like 3 different timelines.
Yeah, that for some reason choices, they use decisions. The word timeline, but I see it the exact same way. It's all these, it's almost like a tree with all the branches that come out from one spot. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting how they show it, because it's like, I think that's exactly how they always show it to me. It's really weird now I've noticed that because we're talking about it, but that's part of your contract too. Like to think, perfect. There's a probability that I might make these 3 different decisions, or I might get a choice of seeing these 3 different things in my life. And there's more of a higher probability I'll go down this path as opposed to this path, because this path is probably due to the circumstances I'm in, and due to my age, and due to my body and the way I think is high. It's highly likely I'm going down this path and not this other path. So it's like it all lines up for you to have a more probability. So that information can come through in a reading, but it doesn't come through as a certainty, right?
No, they call it probability. And while you're talking, they told me that the reason why they're using with me timeline is because it's a line that lights up when it's its time. So how they show it to me is I see that same little person coming off of a line. Once he's off that line turns grayish, like not gray, not like dark gray, but like it's almost like the light turns off, right? The energy from that time is the past, and no longer needs the energy of active of now. And then he has these 3 gray ones in front of him, and he gets to choose one of those. And then he goes on to one, and that one lights up fully. And the other 2 stay gray because they're not activated. And so now this timeline is activated. Now that's the time for this lesson, for this ramification. And so it's the time of that line, and it's activated, it's illuminated at the time. Once he's off of that one and onto the next one, that one goes gray, and the next one lights up.
Oh, wow.
It's like an energy thing.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So like you were saying, the situations can be calculated or seen based on probability of it happening. So we have to think about that a little bit and think, perfect. So that goes to show how much free will we have. That goes to show how there's nothing set in stone, and it goes to show how we can decide for ourselves in this life. So how can the Akashic Records ever tell you what's exactly going to happen? They can't. That's impossible. Because that's not how we're supposed to live. Our contract has us making these decisions and going down specific paths and having to decide between things, because that's part of how we need to learn. That's how we're going to grow and align and be able to incarnate in another life possibly, and having learned that lesson through having to make a decision maybe. I think making decisions is a very hard thing for humans. And we have to use our hearts, but at the same time we have our brain. So it's like a constant struggle of going back and forth. So I think that's a very good example of, free will. I mean, this free will is just, I think nothing set in stone is equals free will. Like that's how I see it. That's how they're kind of showing it to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly what it is, really, because that's the main reason why it's not set. It can't be set in stone, and you don't want that. You don't want it to be set in stone. Then you're just predetermined to do everything that they say. And then what did the soul learn? It learned to just follow a road, and there's no lessons there, right? But that's what brings karma on, or dharma. Karma or dharma is played in because of the free will. So you can either advance, like they talked about today. Spiritually advance and spiritually awaken and improve your probability and possibilities with this incarnation and what was planned for your soul. And then you're creating there's no way you're going to create negative karma from doing that. The only thing you can create is dharma. So why not enhance your chances and at the same time create positive dharma for future lives, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why the Akashic Records can't give you a reading and say, this is what's going to happen to you, this is how it's going to happen to you, and this is when it's going to happen to you, right?
Yeah. And I do see a lot of numbers pop up during readings, which is really interesting. Numbers is like a thing. I don't know. Not just the number 3, because I think we've gone through that in a lot of our courses and explained like a lot of things are in 3s for the Akashic Records. But I do get a lot of numbers, like ages. I don't necessarily get percentages like you do. Maybe that's just not within something that I channel at the moment. But I see it more in the sense like when they show it to me, it's like, well, this feels aligned for you. Because I guess the whole feeling thing for me, I feel a lot. Going down this path feels aligned. Not to say that where you're going isn't, but I think you just need to see both options. Like, not also discount things out or take things out because, they might not feel right to, but maybe you need to go down that path and learn something. It's like, like the whole relationship thing, like, is this person good for me? And will I end up with this person? And they might say yes, but that ending up with the person might end in divorce. It might end in separation. But you had to be with that person to live specific things and to maybe start to love yourself and to value yourself. Yeah, clear out karma. There was something from a past life that you have with this person that you need to clear out now. And getting married is part of that.
And that's a good example of why you should listen to what you think you should do and not what others, because they're all going to be like, no, don't do that because this person's not good for you because of this, and that. And then you let yourself be kind of inclined to not doing that because of others' opinions. You're listening to everyone outside instead of listening to yourself. And now you have to do it again in another lifetime. And guess what? And I know a lot of people get mad when I say this, but they always say it. The next time you have to do it again, your soul has to come back and do it again, it's harder. I don't know why. And they never really give me a full-blown explanation. And I don't know, I think my human brain won't be able to comprehend it. But
saying just you haven't learned the lesson.
So next time it's like
you have to learn it.
It's almost like a child. Like they give you opportunity here's it lightly. And the child doesn't get it. And the second time the parent says, okay, don't do that. And they don't get it. The third time the parent's like, I said don't do it. Well, this is kind of like the soul screaming.
It's energetically,
yeah. Screaming you energetically going, no, you don't get it. So, yeah, that's you want to get it done in this lifetime. So just listen to yourself and allow yourself. But if you're the person that's getting a reading and you're very, very in tuned and listening to yourself, then they can actually probably share with you a lot of stuff that is possibly coming in the future because you've already have a track record of staying in tuned, staying in line. And so at that point, they're like, you're 90-something% chance of going down that. Let's talk about it. Let's let you know what's going to happen. So you can get more information if you're more in tuned and more in line. And a good example of that is when I get readings with somebody and they're like, this is what you're here to do. And they'll just confirm it to them. This is what you're here to be like, oh my God, I already knew that. Like I was going to start studying that. And that's because that person has a good past track record of listening to themselves or making all the shifts that they needed to. And the Akashic Records are pretty confident that that's going to get done. So now they're going to just give you that little extra oomph of reassurance to make sure, or to make you feel just better because they already know you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that sometimes with people. It's like, this is what you're here to do. Like, there's no doubt about it. So, and that's funny because you're saying they already have that intuitive hit. They just need someone to confirm it for them. And their soul and their guides and their masters know that. Yeah. And that's the kind of what they're saying right now. It's like, they already know it. They feel it. They're on their path. They just needed that confirmation. And that's not going to change the way they're going to move forward. They're going to do it anyway. So they're not changing their free will, if that makes sense. That's why it works for that kind of reading.
That's funny that you're saying
others,
that,
it may not.
Because you're saying like their masters and their guides and their soul, they knew that they just needed that little push, right? That little reassurance. And the way they show me why you're saying that is, it looks like a fishing line. This is how the master's showing it to me. it looks like a fishing line, and the master's like, okay, we gotta give this person that little push, a little reassurance. They're basically there, so we're not breaking the free will. He's saying, he's just making sure we're not breaking the free will, because it's like karmically nothing nobody wants to break, right? Even them, of course. And so they find someone, a healer, a friend to make a comment, or someone that can read their Akashic records, or a tarot reader, or whatever it is that the person's most interested in. They'll look for that. So if your interest is, for example, the Akashic records, they're going to find the Akashic records person that's going to be the best channel for you to get that, and they throw the fishing line. He's like throwing the line.
They're casting it out, yeah.
And then that line's going to get that. Someone's going to talk about that person to the person. Someone's going to recommend that person. You're going to it's going to pop up on your screen somehow, or you're going to be attracted to like a video on YouTube, and that person wakes you up and, oh, this person reads. Let me get a date with them, or I don't know. Like, there's so many options of how they throw the line, but they'll get that person to them to just end up giving them. The whole point is for them to get that reassurance so that they can feel okay and confident and continue on the line that they're already on.
Yeah. Their free will's already pushing in that direction. So they're just getting the confirmation they need. That little, and it doesn't feel like a lot. It's a little confirmation they need. It's like that second, it's that little voice in their head is like, I know I can do it. I feel like this is my path. And then someone screams it at them and they're like, okay, cool. I feel confident now. I can do it. They're already doing it, though.
And sometimes the reason why they have to throw that fishing line is because, yes, they're on the right path, and yes, the free will already decided to go down there, but sometimes they show them like fences. Like, it's almost like you need to open the fence and go past, and that fence is a mini struggle or a small struggle. And those struggles are there on purpose, because they usually, I don't know why, this time it's not 3, it's 2. They usually, because they show me 2 fences, they usually try and knock you off your course a little bit twice on if it's a really important mission in your life or a really important purpose. They're going to put little tiny fences that you're going to find really hard to open, and that's you reconfirming your steps. And once you pass those 2 fences, then everything of the grand plan can come together and things can be exactly the way it's supposed to, and all to your favor and to your hard work.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. At least to me, that makes sense. Like with things I've lived. It's just like the little rocks in the road that you have to stumble over, but you're still going, and you have to go through that little struggle to be able to, in some way, kind of reach that goal or reach where you need to go and get back on track on that path, but in a smoother way.
They're saying, I'm wondering why they do that. If you already took the energy and the free will
to make sure that you're prepared.
Yeah.
That you're really going to do it.
They say if you're on the right path and they put those 2, like you said, you call them rocks in the road, right? Yeah. I'm still calling them fences. You call them rocks. It's the same thing. They pass those 2 humps in the road, right? They pass those 2. They had to go through those struggles, and now the reward at the end of the road is going to feel greater, and it's going to be achieved and enjoyed. And so there's a whole other.
That's kind of what I wanted to express, but you said it right. Yeah, you said it the right way. That's exactly what was coming through. It's like, it's not like you deserve it, but it's like you're able to be there fully afterwards, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Also, I think people should know that I'm not very articulate. Like, I'm not very good at finding a perfect way to explain things. And these are actually my masters, because I'm pretty bad usually at look at the family group, and I'm talking to mom and dad, I'm like, that thingy and the thingy with the thingy, you know? And mom's like, I don't understand what you're saying. And I'm like, it's true. Yeah. But when I have my Akashic records open and they're communicating, I become this explain things pretty well.
It's easier. Yeah. Because they throw examples at you. You see them.
Yeah.
You're very you want to see it, and they show it to you. It's like when you want to explain something, you just show a picture, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing. Mm-hmm. So what future information can you access through the Akashic records? I guess that would be kind of the last question that we can answer here. To sum up this episode. I don't know if there's anything you want to add before we do that, or
no. I think we've kind of pre-talked about everything that I wanted to add. I think that I would sum it up and come after me and add or change up the words, whichever you feel more comfortable. But I think I would say, number 1, you can get reassurance in your path and your reassurance and your purpose and your mission and your path, if you're already on it, they'll definitely confirm that for you. If your free will has already chosen it, they'll definitely confirm that for you, and you'll hear it in a way that will make you feel positive and motivated. You can get it as a scale of if you do this, because you can come to the person as a question. Maybe you're not on any of the path yet. You haven't chosen with your free will at all, and you're going, I can stay in this relationship or I can go, for example, right? And they'll say, well, if you stay in this relationship, you're going to learn this and learn that and learn this and gain that. If you go here and you leave the relationship, and you're going to be able to evolve in this and evolve in that and learn this. So they'll give you the pros and cons. Sometimes one will have only pros, and someone will have pros and cons. But whichever the situation, they're going to give you what may or may not happen, right? And so they're continuing to allow you to have your free will, but they're enlightening you to let you know which one's going to feel pretty great and which one's not going to feel so great. So it's almost like a hint.
True. Kind of nudge you, like you said, in the right direction.
Yeah. So those are the other one. And then there's a third, for me at least, there's like a third way of them answering a future, which is they can't. They can't because you're so far away from making the decision. They can't give you too much because it's going to ruin a really big lesson, or it's going to break down a free will to big scale. And so then they can't give you, and they'll tell you, they'll just talk to you about the present and the past, or whatever blocking you right now. And so they'll go to your past and they'll just talk to you about the past and like, well, why do you think that you're stuck, and why is it that keeps happening? And then they refer to you to past life or a past moment in this life. So those are the three ways where you can get you can get a response about asking a future thing with the Akashic Records.
Yeah. And I think a good thing, those are perfect. I wouldn't add anything else. But what I would say is, when people get so hung up on knowing the future, what's going to happen? What should I do? And I've been there. I feel like now more so than ever, I'm more calm, and I trust the universe. I trust my path. I trust that whatever has to happen will happen, and that I'm on the path that needs to be. But I think if you find yourself in that situation where you're literally obsessing over maybe, and I'm using that word, lightly, obsessing over the future, or wanting to know what to do because you can't decide, or afraid to decide. Obviously, we're talking about ego here the whole time. Ask yourself why. Like, really ask yourself why you're in that position, and what's not allowing you to trust your life, your path, and yourself to make the right decision. Is it because you know that you're not aligned with your heart and your intuition? Because I think most people can say that might be the case. Are you afraid to make a mistake? I mean, these answers that you get would be great questions to ask the Akashic Records. For example, if you find yourself afraid of always making the wrong decision because you always screw it up. Like, why do I have that feeling of always screwing up and making the wrong decision? Where's that feeling coming from? And what is it here to teach me? Like, those are great questions to ask. It's like digging deeper. It's like we always say with the Akashic Records, you have to keep digging deeper to figure out why the future has to be written for you. And if it was written, what would you learn? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, how you're going to learn your lessons, and there's no living. That's not living.
It's like if you know you're going to be hit by a tornado, you're going to lose your house, and you'll just be like, well, I'm going to just sit here on the couch for the next 2 years while I wait for the tornado to hit, because I'm going to lose anything anyways.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
There's I don't think spiritually we don't gain anything at all from knowing that. So I think the Akashic Records also, this nothing set in stone, this free will, that's part of our protection. It's part of us protecting our spiritual path and our spiritual journey, because that's what we're here to do. We're humans, but we're incarnated souls.
The way that's what you said is good, but the way that they're showing to me so you're describing it in words and they're describing to me an image while you're saying it. And so they show the book in like dark writing, which means it's written. This is the past and it's happened. And then I get to the current page and it's like everything after that's grayed out. Everything's grayed out because we couldn't write it yet. We just have written down possibilities. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe
it's
that.
in pencil.
Yeah, it's like in pencil.
Pen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good way of putting it. And then while it's happening, it's coming dark and it's being confirmed and it's being recorded. This is Akashic Records.
I like that image.
Firmly recorded. So that's why they can't even tell you anyways, because it's faded in your pages. It's not. They don't really know.
It's not really written.
Yeah.
Not fully, at least. So I hope this in some way kind of clears up how the Akashic Records sees the future, because I think that's something that we get asked that. I mean, at least I do get asked that a little bit every now and then. It's like, what kind of questions we can ask, and this episode should give you a good idea of like orientate you in the right direction of like what kind of questions you can ask regarding the future, and maybe even ask yourself some questions before you go into a reading of like, why do I want to know this, or why do I want to know that? Like, is it that important?
Or do I already know the answer?
Yeah. And a lot of times people know the answer.
Most of the time.
That's really funny. Yeah, most of the time. So we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We will be back next week with a new episode, a new interview, which we actually did today. And we're really excited because we know you guys are going to love it. And be sure to follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle's at soul_tribe_podcast. As we mentioned, we have the course for Akashic Records Level 1 coming up in June. We will put that in the show notes. We also have a soul contracts course that is on Thinkific. So we have a link to that on the show notes as well. So make sure you check it out and share it with anybody you think might be interested in any of these courses. It'll definitely help them out, and it'll help us out because we're trying to get the word out on the Akashic Records and trying to expand people. And we hope you guys stick around. So make sure to follow us and subscribe to us. And we'll see you guys all next week. Bye, guys.
Thank you.